Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a great day today. I'm pretty excited to be here to present my talk, Shiny, Pretty, and Post-Processed. Stress effects for jaw-dropping visuals. So what is post-processing? So take a look at this image of this beautiful fat cat. And what is cool is that it's completely glitched. So this is an effect that normally is done in post-processing. So without post-processing, you can have a boring scene or 3D scene like this. So we have a sphere with a grid floor, but with post-processing, we can have a really fancy glowing sphere that also have a glitch like the cat. So how is it possible? So post-processing is a technique that is consists of adding effects on the final render of that scene. It's often used in filmmaking, and I don't know why the image that I had here is not working. Let me see if refreshing making happen. Yes, because I love this picture of it's one of my favorite movies. Let me put it again in full screen. So all these effects are normally done in post processing. Okay, so they create this, they create the movie, and then there is a team that do the color grading, and there is a team that apply effects for the lighting or for changes in color, etc. So all this is post processing, and we can actually make it work in the world of 3D and WebGL on the browser. So the way it works is that we have our 3D scene built with Tres, right? So this scene has, I don't know, certain elements like a cube, a sphere, a camera. What we do is take a picture of that to send it to the render so it presents it in the canvas. But then we can create another render where we apply some effect. So in this case, we're applying something called bloom effect that creates emissive lighting from those materials. Then we can do another render where you recolor the whole scene to a different color. And that way, the final output of your scene is like this. Is a glowing version with a recolor of the initial cube or objects that you have. So this is roughly how post-processing works. But why would you like to do that? The first thing is that you have separation of concerns. You have the main path, which is your main rendering, where you are rendering your scene, versus the After Effects that you want to use. It gives you way more performance that try to apply those effects in real time. So basically, you apply it after the image has been rendered. That way, you can control the whole pipeline. It only applies to the final render, actually, and not to the whole thing. You have a lot of artistic control. This is something that gives creative agencies like Basement Studio or other agencies in France to create these creative projects with 3D with cool effects. Um, so coming back to TresJS and how we can apply post-processing here, I want to have a quick recap for those of you that are not familiar yet with TresJS. TresJS is basically a Vue custom render that wraps Three.js, the JavaScript library, so you can use it in a declarative fashion with Vue.js components and composables. So the word tres comes from tree in Spanish, and it references the library. So here is the quick view of the document. Always welcome. So the way you can get started with it is pretty easy. You can use your package manager of choice and then add TresJS core and also as a pure dependency, the Three.js library. Or you can directly play with it in our playground, which is pretty cool. It's like a single file component playground like the Vue one. You can also see the code here if you want. So let's work on our first 3D scene before we add some cool effects. So here we have a single file component. And what we're going to do is import the canvas from the TresJS core library. The canvas is the one handling the whole context and also providing the DOM with the canvas element where all the 3D is going to be rendered. We're going to use a prop called window size, so it takes the whole screen. Next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to create a subcomponent called experience, and we're going to put it inside of the Tres canvas. So inside of this, the experience.view, we're going to add first a camera to be able to see the scene, okay, and be able to render. And we're going to position it in a certain position and make sure that it's looking to the center of the scene. Then we're going to create a mesh, where a mesh is basically an object where you pass the geometry and you pass the material. So you can do the similarity to how CSS and JavaScript work, or HTML and CSS. So the sphere geometry is going to be like the HTML, and the standard material is going to be the CSS, everything that gives color or change the visual properties of the element. Okay. You probably noticed that we are using just Vue components directly. That's the whole beauty of the declarative custom render. So we're prefixing it, and all the different instances that you will use with normal Three.js, if you prefix them with Tres, you're already going to have it on the scene. Okay. So this scene right here is going to render. Well, first we need to add a light, because probably if not, we're not going to see anything. And this is going to create this scene right here. So please give you a plus, on, like a big applause, because this is your first 3D scene ever. It's not that difficult. You probably were like more intimidating on creating your own first scene, where with Vue and TresJS is actually pretty simple. But we can go a step forward and then introduce this library. Okay, so TresJS post-processing is a library on top of TresJS. We have several other abstractions, but this one is special because it allows you to create all these different effects with the same concept. You're going to use Vue composables and components. So it's divided in two kind of effects. We have the native Three.js effects that are provided by Three.js itself, and then the Poimandres effects, which are based on Poimandres work. Poimandres is an organization that created React through Fiber, which is the counterpart of TresJS, but in React. So they were the pioneers of creating a declarative framework on top of Three.js. Okay, so we take some of the library and we made it available for Vue. So the Three.js effects are really easy to set up. We go back to our single file component where we imported the canvas, and we're going to import two components. We're going to import the effect composer, which is basically the one that is going to control the whole effects, and then the different passes or effects, which is in this case the Unreal Bloom, the one that makes things shine. So you can import them from TresJS post-processing, and then just beside your scene, you're gonna use suspense because it's an asynchronous operation, so you need to use suspense. And then you are gonna add the effect composer and a component for the Unreal Bloom. You can set some of the properties via the props, such as the radius of the glowing, how much it's gonna blur, how intense do you want it to be, and the threshold of the color to make it happen. So for that, we need to enable emissions. Materials have a lot of properties, but when we are checking a material, like could be my shirt, is not emitting any light. But if we see like a bulb or we see another thing that emits light, that's the emission. Okay, so that's a property that we can set in components by setting emissive and set the color of the light that we want to emit with that material, and then the intensity that we're going to have. So if we add all of this, now our sphere glows. It looks way better and way fancier. But we can also do it with Poimandres, because Poimandres has their own effect for bloom. Instead of calling Unreal, because the Unreal Bloom is based on Unreal, the game engine, the way they do it, and Poimandres has a different bloom effect. So it's pretty similar. If you want to use Poimandres effects, you need to use the effect composer from Poimandres. So it's suffixed with Poimandres, and all the effects available for Poimandres are also suffixed. So it's the same way you're gonna create a suspense and then get all the things inside. Okay, pretty easy. This also make it glow. Okay, so we had two ways of making it glow, but you probably noticed that they're different between each other. And that's because not all effects are done in the same way. There are several ways you can approach effects on Three.js, on WebGL especially. So you can see here the difference between one and another, and it really depends on what you want to achieve. In my personal, like I think the Bloom from Point Dress it has way more features and it looks actually better than the one from Unreal Bloom. But it's a matter of taste. You can select the one that actually you like the most. Okay, so that's up to you. Um, however, with time, I think we're kind of good. Yes. So I'm pretty happy because we just released the version 2.4.0 some weeks ago. We have at the beginning we launched it with 15 new effects, but now we're not 12, and now we're like 18 effects available, and they're really cool. I'm gonna show you some of them. We have the barrel blur, something called Kuwahara. It's pretty fun one. Data screen, lens distortion, scanline, and way more. Okay, so special thanks to Tino and Damien from the maintainers of TresJS. They build this and they are maintaining the libraries. So giving some love because they work so hard for making this happen. I want to showcase some of the effects that they built. This one is pretty awesome because it's like a barrel blur effect. So you take an object with some illumination and then you create this distortion around it. So this is the original cube, but then you can see like how you can distort the lens and also like the effect around. You can offset it as well, and you can change the blend method. So to different, like in Photoshop or other image processing kind of stuff, you can also change it with here, like with different blending modes. Okay, it's as easy as just importing the component and using it inside of the effect composer. Which one? The Kuwahara one. This is kind of cool because it gives you this watercolor effect. I don't know what it's called, Kuwahara. If you know, please let me know in the comments. So this is pretty cool because the effect, like the scene itself, without it is just like a watermelon, like a simple watermelon and some plant. But when you enable it, it goes a little bit more like a painting. So you can here change the amount of like the visual effect of the painting is really visible here in the skin of the watermelon. So you can change like how much of a watercolor effect we'll have. This one is one of my favorites, to be honest. We had the dot screen one. So this simulates or emulates how comics were printed in the past. So if you have a comic, like a physical comic, you're probably going to see that they have this dot effect, dot pattern effect. I don't know how visible it is in the stream. Maybe I can force it to be a little more visible, but you can see that there's like a pattern of dots that creates this effect on the shadows. Oh yeah, this one is pretty cool. So we go back to our watermelon and our plants, and if I enable the pixelation, it creates a pixelated version of whatever you're rendering. So this is like gives you the vibes like PS1 kind of vibes, video games in the past, and it's live. Like I can move the camera around and it's rendering right away. You can also select like the amount of pixels, so you can have less pixels, more pixels, whatever. This one is really cool. What else? A scanline effect. This is also one of my favorites because the aesthetics of all TVs. So you can emulate or fake the noise of the all scanline effects of the screens. You can also set the density so it could be more dense like this. Yeah, you can play around and do so many cool stuff. Yeah, what's next? Please give Tres and TresJS post processing a try. We have a Discord channel, a community, and also we're really active on socials. So please share anything that you do with these libraries. I want to see all the cool effects, scenes that you create, and share it with the whole community. This is one created by Andre that was a port from Reactor Fiber 1. And it's actually like a game done with Vue completely with TresJS and the post-processing library. So you can see like how the visuals are really cool, a little bit like 70s, 80s kind of visuals. And if you want to go a step forward, you can always contribute to the project and help us out build TresJS for the Vue community. Um, that will be pretty much it. Like I always give my presentation at the end. So this, my name is Alvaro Sabu. I'm a developer experience engineer at Storyblock. I probably should update my description in the events. So now I'm a DX engineer from Barcelona, but originally from Venezuela. I create content on my YouTube channel. Would like to create more content this year. I have my portfolio here, an Alvaro Saburido dev, which I never finish. And you can always say hi at Blue Sky and Twitter. I want to give a big shout out to all the contributors that make TresJS possible. So big thanks to all of you. The number is growing every time I create these slides. I had to pull new contributors into the graphics. So I'm pretty proud of it. And if you want to contribute in a different way, you maybe don't think you have the skills or the knowledge, but you want to contribute to the project, you can always sponsor us or any of the developers involved with the GitHub sponsors. Thank you very much. I hope you like it.
Thank you. It was amazing having you here.
Thank
How
you.
are you doing, Alvaro?
Oh, good. Oh, pretty good. Busy week, but happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure being you here. Let's start with the questions. And the first one is, what inspired you to create Three.js for Vue and Three.js integration?
I always love to share this one because I actually it's pretty personal or like selfish. I wanted to create my portfolio with Nux and 3D. I was learning 3D modeling with Blender, and I wanted to showcase my like characters and everything that I was building, but there was no a good way of doing it in Vue at that time. There were some libraries, but I was jealous of the React ecosystem on React through Fiverr because it was so easy to create websites and applications with 3D. So most of the open source projects start like scratching your own itch until it becomes a
Mhm.
actual project and people start contributing to it and use it in production. But that was the inspiration. And funny fact, I haven't finished my portfolio yet. So it's 2 years
What?
from we start TresJS and I haven't finished my portfolio.
It started like an inspirational story, but at the end, it changed a little bit.
The reality hits.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. How do you see 3D web development evolving in the Vue ecosystem?
Um, I would like to see like more people involved because trust me when I say that this downs the curve, like the learning curve. They put the learning curve for the 3D world way below, so you can enjoy creating 3D stuff with a familiar framework like Vue.
Mhm.
So I would like to see more people actually talking about this because sometimes like the talks and everything are more related to UI, and there is so much possibilities that we can create with 3D that I would like to see more often. Like we already have some people that give talks to this, like Thorsten, that he created his own game, for example, and create some talks about it. That's awesome. Like we want more of that. So please, if you're working with 3D, Tres, and Vue, let us know. We're more than happy to share it with the whole community.
Thank you. And let's get to one last question. What are the biggest challenges when working with 3D graphics in web applications?
Probably performance because now it has improved. We have more potent or more like tough devices, but it used to be a constraint. So we really need to take care of performance whenever we are showcasing a website or a application with 3D to make sure that it's accessible to everyone. Okay, so there are different techniques. Like in gaming, there are different techniques of like the level of detail and such that we
Mm-hmm.
make to ensure that everyone can use it. Also, we need to be careful about reactivity because your reactivity could damage sometimes the performance of the rendering. So the usage of shallow reactive shallow ref is really really great for performance in Tres.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your lovely presentation, but also
Thank you.
answering all the questions. Have a lovely day.
Likewise, thanks.